Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how I do multicolor prints with a single extruder. I basically just edit the G-code after I've sliced it. There are other ways of doing it. Make Anything vid is a good one on multipass printing, so if you look up on YouTube Make Anything, he's got a good video there. So to start with, I use Simplify for doing my slicing, and the first thing I do is modify the PLA process, and in the scripts tab down at the bottom there's scripts that get performed on the sliced G-code, and one of them is the first one, replace semicolon layer, which is a comment that Simplify puts in at each layer change. And I've changed that to M117 layer, which actually prints out onto the printer screen, and if you have Octoprint dashboard, it prints it on there as well. It prints the layer and all the layer information that followed the original layer. Two things, I get it printed out on the printer screen, and the second one is M117 actually makes it easier to plough through the G-code file to find the layer changes for cut and pasting new code in. There's also a similar function in Cura Slicer. Your slicer doesn't do that, or you can't find it in there, then you just finish up having to find whatever layer syntax your slicer produces. So the next stage is bring the model in. Drop it onto the bed just in case there's been any shifts during design away from the origins. Open up the test we're going to use, select the model that we want to print. And then slice it. We've got to make sure we're set to a layer view. As you can see, we've got 11 layers on this model. So just go right down to the bottom, and what we're looking for is the point at which we want to do the colour change, which will be when the shape changes. So we work his way up through the layers. Blue is shell, green is solid, and brown is infill. There we go. So you can see layer 5, it started to print the shell of the next shape, which is where we want to colour change. So we should change the colour of the filament at layer or before layer 5 starts to print. And then we just work his way up the layers to find the next profile change, which will be to a square, won't it? Yep, so there we've started finishing off the circle profile, and that's layer 9. We've started printing the boundary for the next layer, the shell. So that's it. 5 and 9 are the layers where we want to change colour. So that done, we can just slice it, save it. Give it a name. And that's it, we've finished with the slicer. And if we go look at the G-code file that we've just created, time of asking. Thank you. As you can see, it's such a simple shape and it's only 11 layers, but there's 18,000 lines of code. So to find the layer change positions in that file is a bit difficult. So you're either going to have to search for the layer changes by whatever syntax your slicer is doing. We should be looking for M117. The other thing we need to know is if there's any retraction at layer change, which you can set in the slicer. Need that information later. So we just need to find the setting here because I forgot to look in simplify. There we go. Retract between layers 0. So there's 0 retraction between layers, but there could be a number there. It would be probably minus in millimeters, but we've got 0. I think in the example further on I use minus 3.142, but it's actually 0 in this case. So as you can see, you've got to plough through a lot of code now, and what we're looking for is M117. There you go, layer, and that's layer 1, and it's Z equals 0.264. Now to find the next layer, so we'll just search now through for M117, which is no longer a comment. Originally it would have been semicolon layer, which is just a comment. Didn't replace the semicolon. So anything after a semicolon is a comment, and Gcode or your printer will just ignore it. So we're looking for M117, and that's layer 1. Find the next one. Layer 2. Layer 3, 4, 5. That's where we want to inject our code. So just make a space so we know where it's going to go. Right, now the code we want to put in there is this. I've double spaced it so you can see what's needed, but that's the code that we're going to cut and paste into it without the blank lines in between. Okay, so the first one is just a beep, so if you're not paying attention. The next one is change to relative motion, because we don't know where the nozzle is. Change it, the height by 20 millimeters, the extruder, and extrude minus 50 millimeters of filament. The next one is now changed to absolute positioning. Go to X20, print next color on your printer and halt. Do nothing. This gives you the opportunity, it's already extruded or retracted the filament. You just got to feed the new filament in. Make sure you have a good colour, take away the excess and continue on. When you continue on, it'll go to G92E0, set the extruder reference to 0. XXX, we know it's 0, that's a retraction. If you had something in there to be minus, for example, 3.142. Just a final tip, when you do change filament, you will get some weepage out of the nozzle if you take too long between feeding the new filament in, cleaning off the At this point you can keep the actual code that we're going to add in Notepad, take out all the blank lines and everything, so next time it's just a straight cut and paste, and the only thing you have to edit is the XXX. So that's what the final code paste looks like. So if we go back to search, because that's layer 5, we need to do layer 9. Six, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so it's just now cut and paste. So make a little space so we know where we're going to put the code. Go back to layer 5, cut it, paste it back in at layer 9. That's it. Save the file. Give it a name. Nice to add those in, then later on you know that there is actually some layer changes in there. Okay, there it is, nicely saved. That's the original file. So that's the principle of it. All I've done is I've automated it a little bit, written an application which opens up in the last place that you actually looked for a file. So if we go and find the file that we've just produced, and select it, that's the original one, the unmodified one. Here we go, and all we do is add in the layers that we want to change, 5 and 9. As you can see, it tells you the layer count is 11, and all it'll do is it'll read the file, write it to a new file, and if there's a layer 5 or a layer 9, it'll actually insert the code and it'll read the original Gcode file to change the XXX value if there's any retraction. As you can see, it's rewriting the file in total, so that's 18,000 lines of code. That's just done. It writes it back to the original file. It doesn't modify the file name. So if we go and have a look at the original file now, you'll see, and again this is where the M117 comes in. If we go and find layer 5 and 9, you'll see that they've actually been modified exactly the same. Layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on, 5. There you go. That's been put in, and you can see G1E0 just before the final M117 there. 0 layer retraction, and layer 9. So that's how I do it. Quick and dirty, quite simple. Just slice it up, decide your level, your layers, and then I just feed it into my little app and it does it automatically. If you don't have the little app, Notepad, and then it's there for you to cut and paste and whenever you need it. So that's how I do it. It may not be the best, but it suits me. Just a final tip. When you do change filament, you will get some weepage out of the nozzle. If you take too long between feeding the new filament in, cleaning off the bottom of the nozzle, and restarting the printing, you will get this little telltale there. Could add some retraction into your original settings, or as you're editing the Gcode, just add a little bit of retraction in there, and that would clear that up. Bye.